you to do just that. So it is not an agreement that can be broken unilaterally. That means they cannot just fire us for no reason. We do not have to let them out of that agreement. Now, if the seller no longer wants to have their home marketed for sale, then we can certainly withdraw the home from the market. They need to know this up front. So many clients are coming to us, they're coming to me, mad at their agent because their agent won't cancel the deal. Well, they're not realizing that we don't have to let them out. We need to be the communicator, right? We need to be the leader. We need to communicate with them up front when they're signing that listing agreement. They understand that this agreement is not one that's going to be broken because somebody else comes along and wants to buy the house. They will still owe us the commission. Is this making sense?
Yes.
So what do you need to help you explain this to your client? Anything?
Contract.
To know our contracts.
To know your contracts, okay. So how often do we have contracts classes?
Every week.
Every
week.
Every Wednesday.
Every week. How many of you are there?
Good amount.
A good amount, okay, great. Do we ever go over the listing contract?
Yes.
Yes.
We just started.
Okay, great. Does anybody need a, like if I put on a class on how to go over the listing agreement with your client, would anybody be interested in attending that?
Yes.
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 Okay, so we'll plan something here in the future, in the near future, the next couple of weeks, where we'll get on a call, we'll do a little role play, and I'll show you how to walk your client through the listing agreement so you successfully, because how many of you are a little nervous that if they know all of this, they may not sign it? Because the way I just presented it to you is a little scary, is it not?
Yes.
I'm scared. But obviously we're not going to present it to our client the same way that I presented it to you. So we'll go over in the next couple weeks, we'll put something on the calendar, and we'll go over how to present that listing agreement so that you can make the point, you can set the expectations, and not.
Great.
Nico's got a question.
Too strong.
All right, Nick.
It's more of a statement, but the biggest thing that really helped me was just sitting down and reading everything on my own and learning how to understand it, as well as asking questions on the things that I didn't understand, but reading it word for word on my own, which is very tedious and tasking, but I feel confident because of that. As well as reading others.
That's 100%. Thanks for sharing that, Nico. How many of you have read the listing agreement and the RPA, like word for word?
That sounds terrible, Drew.
I know,
We do it.
I know, but.
I'm a professional, I'm supposed to just get paid without having to do any work.
Try it on your own.
Right, like for us to actually know the agreement that we're asking our clients to sign, and oh, by the way, we're asking them for 6% commission or 5% commission. Gosh, maybe that's why we have a hard time getting 6% commission. Because we ourselves are not even confident in what we're asking them to do. Like, we are the leaders, we have to first be confident in ourselves so we can pass that along to our client.
And Roland's got a question.
We all listen to JD with his fantastic scripts, and he's winning awards with his script. Okay, so not only did JD work very hard in practice at getting those scripts down, but what else do you think he's got going for him?
He's handsome.
He's handsome.
It's the eyes. He knows his stuff.
He knows his stuff, right? He has a knowledge of the agreement that he's putting in front of the client to ask them to sign. He knows it. And if they ask him a question, he can answer the question. A lot of you are fearful that you're not going to have the answer to the question. Well, the answer to the question lies right within the document. And how long is it really going to take you to read through the contracts? A couple of hours. You could have them read. You could do that every so often. For those of you that are not writing offers every week for your clients, are you doing a mock offer? Are you writing a fake one just to keep yourself in tune? Right?
I'll be writing offers.
So that when you get a client that says, write it up, you're like, I got you. It's not like going back to the drawing board.
So you mean we can't practice on our clients, Drew?
I mean, we do call it practicing real estate, medicine. But how many of us really want to be, like when we go to the doctor, we want to be the one they're practicing on?
That's my first
That
time.
doesn't feel good, right? So our clients don't want to be the ones we're practicing on when we're writing an offer, writing a listing agreement. So I encourage you to practice.
Roland, you got a question?
You
Maybe,
got a question? Oh, you got your hand up.
maybe not.
You're muted. You are.
I think he's just looking for a high five.
All right, high five, Roland. Okay. Also, I have another question. Can you represent yourself when buying or selling your own piece of property?
No. Never.
Not at Keller Williams.
Not at Keller Williams. Okay. Why not at Keller Williams? Because we're the big bad wolf?
No.
Because we're smarter than the other people.
That's right.
It's a liability.
That's right. In
We're
fact,
contract.
I was on a broker call a couple of weeks ago, a broker Zoom, and I taught all the other brokers something that they didn't know. To go back and read their insurance policies and discover that you cannot represent yourself and still be insured. So we are, by the way, and the reason I don't take the credit because I didn't read the insurance policy, right? Our leadership team read the policy, the insurance policy, and they know how we can be protected. And the best way for us to be protected is to not represent ourselves on our own transactions, because we do not have an insurance policy that will cover us.
Now, does that include two separate agents within the same brokerage?
No. So like, many agents hire me to represent them in the purchase or sale of a piece of real estate, and I don't charge them. I know that Garrett would be willing to do the same for you.
Just log into my car so I don't have to do it. Oh, did I say that out loud?
Are we being recorded?
Yes, we are. Just kidding.
Don't do that.
Don't do that.
Satire for purposes only.
This was obvious a joke. I always log into my own car.
Yeah, always. I don't give out my credentials to anybody. So, but yeah, so and we can be successful in doing that, and we're protected if we just have somebody else in the office represent us, and we're good that way. How about if you have a corporation? What if I have an LLC that I'm a member of, and the LLC is purchasing or selling the piece of real estate? Then I can represent myself. Yes or no?
No.
No.
Because you still have
Yeah.
interest.
But wait, what if I'm a co-listing agent? Can I do that?
No. I don't think so.
Oh, what?
No. The answer is no. Don't do it.
Not in any capacity. Soon, you all are going to be receiving something for you to sign, right? And again, it's not because we want to be the big bad wolf, it's so we want you, part of our job as your leadership team is to keep you protected as well as the company. By the way, if the company is protected, then doesn't that protect you as well?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's part of our job here. So you're going to be getting a document here soon for your signature that acknowledges that you've been told. I hate to say it like that, I don't want to say it like that, but that this message has been put out that we can't represent ourselves.
Well, by the way, you've already signed that in your ICA agreement when you first signed up, but for some reason we forget, so we're doing it again to remind you. And you guys don't see the amount of lawsuits that we get. I do, and there's a lot. We get sued all the time, so don't think it won't happen to me. It's when it will happen to you. You want to make sure that E&O you pay on every transaction is going to be there to cover it, because we get sued all the time.
Yeah, so as the broker, you guys, I get to see all of this stuff, right? I get to see all the ugly that goes on, along with a little bit of good. So share your good stuff with me too, by the way. I always like to hear your good stuff, not just your bad stuff. But I get to see this, and that's why I'm telling you now, right? I want to take what I've gotten and then pass it on to you so you can be protected. And then Irma asked, why won't the insurance company cover us. So I can answer that very easily, because they're an insurance company. How many times do I go to the doctor and I want to get a prescription that the doctor feels is best for me, and the insurance company says they won't pay for it? Or like the car insurance company wants to get out of paying a claim because who was at fault? Was there a police report? Like, the insurance company is always trying to get out of paying a claim. That's their job. Our job is to protect ourselves, to make sure that we're within the bounds where they cannot turn us down. So I don't know the actual reason, Irma. Like, I'm not the insurance company. I just know that an insurance company is a for-profit organization, and if they can get out of paying a claim, they're gonna do it every time.
And Drew, I can speak on that a little
They're not
bit too, is there's most of the major E&O carriers have left California. There is no money in it because there is so much lawsuits. And so we are left with 3 people that would cover a brokerage this size. All 3 companies will not carry it because that is the #1 reason for suit, is someone owned the house and the agent sold it. The liability is much higher, a lot more common for sale or lawsuits, because there is, I didn't know. Yes, you did know, you're a realtor. You should know. And so insurance companies are tired of paying out on those, so they stop covering them. So there you go. All right, Drew, I'm gonna let you go because we're running low on time here. We appreciate
Thank
you as
you.
always, and we will have you back, sometime soon.
Hopefully someday soon.
Sometime soon. All right, guys, we're gonna do. Let me fix this. I spotlighted Drew, so let me unspotlight you. I wish I knew how. Remove spotlight. Boom. Okay. We're gonna do quickly. Shauna, you want to come up? We're gonna do a game real quick. We're gonna do all 3 a little quicker than normal. So get your guests ready. Skip you. There we go.
Okay, first one of the day is West Lancaster, 3 bedrooms, 1 bath, built in 1950, 1,000 square feet home on a really nice big half-acre lot.
That's nice.
I sold that one.
You did, then you should have a price.
How long ago?
It's
Within the
last
last 2
month.
weeks.
It's actually down the street from my house.
Remember,
I know this
don't,
one.
closest to the actual price without going over.
And if you buy this house, you could be JD's neighbor.
That's telling me.
I like it.
All right.
All right, what are you guys thinking in some prices
All right,
here?
do 384,
Oh.
250.
325. I bet you it's more. It's
yeah.
Fort Hill with that much money.
Three always off.
415.
No,
So hard
390?
these days.
420.
So hard.
420.
400?
Yeah.
One bath, one
420.
bathroom.
That's what I'm saying.
414.
One bathroom.
390.
Looks like that little thing in the back.
425. 410.
With the outhouse.
Saddle style. Bathrooms outside.
Really cute.
I like it.
Where's that? You said 47th?
42nd West.
42nd Street West End.
Okay,
And then
7,
malls?
8.
7, all right.
K4 or somewhere there.
All right, actual
Ready?
retail price without going over is 480. You got 390. I think 390.
Oh, dang. Beautiful.
Anyone closer to 390?
I had 390.
Oh, you liar!
I did.
You really did.
I
It was listed.
392?
It was listed at 389.
Is Eric our winner at 392?
No, 390. I had the same. Whoever had.
Oh, yeah, 390 also.
Yeah.
Oh, we got 2 winners.
All right, who did?
All right. See, you've only been here a month already. People, price is right. I think you're like, you had 392. I'm like, wow, that's a pretty.
I would have went with Eric. You're a much better
All
man
right,
than I
let's see
am.
the next one on the
I
list.
said I would have went with Eric. You're a much better man than I am. Yep.
Make sure you answer that, Henry.
Sounds good.
Answer it. Okay, the next one is another West Lancaster, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, built in 1948, 2,600 square foot home on, what is that?
3/4
of an acre?
Yeah, about
Also, cute,
2/3 acre.
nice.
Those are all snake tanks.
Oh, and the,
Ooh.
now what are we doing? Similar to the last one.
Ooh, I like it.
Yep.
I'm gonna go with 675.
Those are in the L's. I bet you that's between L 40th and 45th.
Make it go up 200,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
422.
422? That one's a lot bigger too. That's 1,000
This one's
square feet.
Yeah, that's
1,500 square feet.
I'll do 450.
450? 675, 495, 575, 625, 479.
Jason, what's your yes.
Or the Bash Brothers thinking over here? 589.9, 575,
550.
550.
Alright.
I hope Jason's right. All right, actual retail price without going over is
Six.
Wow.
Jamie, what did you say?
675. It was listed at 675. It's listed at 670.
Wow, all right.
625. Anyone close? Who got? That's 625 is the highest.
Wow.
Yep.
No, we got 545. Oh, for 625.
Six
All right.
It's like-
Dude, it was listed.
Wow.
That's a lot.
That's a big jump up. That's a 2,500 square foot lot.
It's twice the size of the
Yeah.
other one.
Well, yeah.
All right, last one on, oh, here we go again. West Lancaster, 5 bedroom, 3 bath, built in 1989, 2,300 square
Good
foot,
size lot for a tract home.
an 11,000 square foot lot.
You showed this one?
Also
All three
nice.
of them.
Wow, you just missed your show it over
Don't
here.
say anything yet, write it down.
All right. It's not 689 or anything like that. I'm just kidding.
Oh, does that slide come with it?
No, maybe?
Is there, wait.
No pull.
No pool.
This one.
585
I like that.
423. I like
So
that one.
585, 423. Larry's like dead on.
699, 600.
It'd be a bummer if he was a dollar off.
610.
610,
All
580,
right.
680.
All right, let's see.
I'm gonna say 565.
I say 9.
Look that one.
910?
910.
Go million?
No, sorry, 18. Not at 8.
What do we have over here? 589, 560.
610.
All right.
All right.
Actual retail
price.
price now going over is
What is
530.
going on with our prices? Anyone else?
Got a 499 on Zoom. Anyone closer to 499?
How do you go?
515.
550.
550, you're over.
Fort Sill's way more.
515.
50.
550.
She's
You're
over.
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 You're over.
What about this one? Oh, over.
Over. All right, who's less than 530? Did everyone go over?
I think we all did.
No, wait.
We have it all over, not a $1 bid?
We have
Oh,
499.
$499. Was that the old one though?
No, that was this one.
That was this one? Who was it, Julie?
That's the
We
whole one.
got two 499.
No, that's, oh
Oh,
yeah.
Julie got it. No, that's Julie.
No, that's-
Julie got it. 499. Great job, Julie.
This?
Big one. Big winner.
723.
Okay, well, thank you guys and have a wonderful July.
Oh, we will. Thank you, Shauna. How do we say thank you?
On track on the contract.
On track on the contract. All right, real quick, guys. Next week we have our second quarter awards right here. We'll have food, we'll have games, we'll have fun. Come in, eat some food, celebrate the wins. You're all gonna be there?
Yes.
All right. Without further ado, what you guys have all been waiting for, let's welcome up Mr. J.D. Mora. Look, that's good
Gracias.
You're welcome.
Cool. That's a fun game, huh, guys?
Oh, you get that much
Preview your homes. Okay, guys, so how many of you read this book or know about this book? Most of us?
Of course, yeah.
If you don't, get it and read it. Should be one of the first ones. Garrett, if they want to get a book, can they order it through the office or the red store?
Keller Inc.
Keller Inc.
Amazon's probably easier and faster, and we may have some copies here somewhere, but I'm not sure.
Get it. It's super important. So what we're going to go over in today's class, Bulletproof Your Transaction, is one chapter of I think it's like 16 chapters. They call them tactics. So today we're going to go over Bulletproof Your Transaction. When I say Bulletproof Your Transaction, what's that sound like to you guys?
So it won't die.
Action. What was that?
So it won't die.
So it won't die, so it won't fall through. Taking action. What else?
Survival.
Titanium.
Protect it.
Protect it.
Preventing challenges.
Preventing challenges. All the above, guys. Have you guys heard of Murphy's Law?
Yeah.
What's it stand for?
When something is gonna go wrong, it can go wrong on the wrong.
Anything that can go wrong will go wrong. Do you guys know who said that? This is fun fun fact, I have it here. By the way, I'm gonna be reading out of this book here, so if you see me glancing, it's because I'm getting stuff out of this book here. But Murphy's, yes, the name Murphy is in there, but this is so interesting. It is actually Captain Edward A. Murphy from Edwards Air Force Base. He was an engineer. Did you guys know that? I found that so interesting. You guys all know where Edwards Air Force Base is at, right? You know that like 70–80% of all the stealth airplanes that have been built were tested at Edwards? So he probably has a good idea of making sure that he has a bulletproof plan to make sure these airplanes don't fall out of the sky, right? So, Bulletproof Your Transaction is all about pretty much preparing for Murphy's Law. What can go wrong, will go wrong, and having an action plan in place to make sure we don't have that. Some of the things we're going to be talking about today, we'll get to in just a second. Shifts can be maddening. Just when everything seems to be going right, something goes wrong. Typical transactions are not now atypical. Anything settled can quickly become unsettled. Nothing works like it once did, nothing goes like it used to. You'll find this chapter on page 241. By hearing this, what do you guys hear when I tell you this? That things can be maddening. What's that sound like?
You don't like change?
Don't like change? How many of you guys have escrows right now? Or have had escrows in the past? Have things changed in the past year?
Dramatically.
Dramatically, right? What's some of the changes that we're seeing and hearing?
Small problems can become much bigger problems than they used to be.
Buyers canceling.
Small problems can become bigger problems.
Buyers canceling.
Buyers canceling.
You can't get approved anymore.
Can't get approved anymore. How about you've been working for 5 months, you finally get the buyer in just to find out you didn't get them reapproved, the interest rates went up and they can no longer qualify for that price. You find out when you're in escrow. Or what about my buyer talked to their mom who bought in 1970 and things were a lot different back then. You guys got that one before?
No.
Or the media? Well, the news says the market's gonna crash. So now all these things come up that can be maddening, right? And things aren't the same. You show up to a home inspection in a really great market, buyers are like, I'll take it as is. Matter of fact, I'll pay over. You guys remember that market? Where now what are they doing? Haggling. Yeah. Cracked faceplate. Ew. Let me cancel escrow. I don't want that. What do you mean they're not going to give me a $10,000 credit to paint the bedroom that's green?
Just saw when they canceled because of the position of the AC and pool pump. Because of where it was located.
You know, you try to put this into perspective and you might feel like you're going a little mad trying to figure things out, right? So some of the stuff that we're going to talk about today is potential issues, inspections and repairs, appraisals, loan approval and funding, other contingencies, co-op agents, deadlines, bulletproofing the transaction, how to stay pre-active, and early responses. So first we're going to talk about potential issues. Let's talk about inspections and repairs. So you guys have been showing homes, got the buyer pre-approved, got the hard part out of the way, and now you've opened escrow. What's the first thing that we're going to do? Usually a home inspection, right? So when we're doing our home inspections, do problems come up? All the time, right? Some small, some big, a little bit of everything sometimes. So how can we prepare for it? Have you guys been in escrow and something comes up that you guys weren't prepared for when you're the listing agent?
Yep.
Right? You ask the seller, hey, is there anything wrong with the house? Any leaks, air conditioning problems? Like, no, we've maintained it all our lives and everything. And then somehow a leak was undetected and they find it during the inspections. Does that happen? It's happened to me.
Even with my flips.
Flips, yeah. Yep. You're not buying a brand new house. And even with brand new houses, are there still problems?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So one of the first things that we can do to avoid some of these unexpected problems or challenges is get a pre-inspection. What is that?
An inspection done before it goes into escrow?
Yep, so a seller can get a pre-inspection. Drew was talking about it today in the listing agreement. Did you guys know there's a certain part in the listing agreement where you can contractually ask and have the seller do or agree to having reports done before you guys go onto the market?
Yes. Pest reports and.
Pest report, home inspection.
Yeah, home inspections.
There's a whole area on that. Do you think it'd benefit you to have a home inspection done paid for by the seller before you guys start to market it to the buyer.
Yeah.
Show transparency.
I've been able to save some deals alone just by preparing the buyers ahead of time. Hey, look, we have this challenge with the well, this is what's going on. It allows the buyer to digest it and then move forward, or it allows you guys to put a game plan in place. In that scenario, we had actually discussed a few different credits beforehand. And I've had some scenarios where we prepared and we didn't have to use it. And I've had some other scenarios where we prepared and we're like, hey, look, you're gonna have to give at least a $5,000 or $10,000 closing cost credit because you're gonna have to replace that AC. And it's a lot easier to handle it then than when the pressure's on, you guys have to make decisions really fast. Does that make sense? Any questions so far? Next thing, counsel your buyers. What's that look like?
Setting expectations, preparing them.
Setting expectations and preparing them. How do you do that? You just send them an email? Here you go, be prepared. Set your expectations.
Buyer consult.
What was that?
Buyer consultation.
Buyer consultation. How many of you guys are doing buyer consults? Or buyer consultations? What's the benefit of that?
There's quite a few.
Educate them.
One for education purposes, one to have that face-to-face and build rapport. Another one is to dig into their finances and set expectations.
Yes, set expectations, go over finances. We love to go over statistics. So right now, we're talking about inspections and repairs, but this kind of falls into statistics. Oftentimes, I'll get buyers that say, hey, look, I want to reduce the house by 30 grand because it needs X, Y, and Z. They just come up with some magic number that makes them feel good, but they really don't know. And so what happens is when you go through the statistics and you tell them, what's the list price to sales price percentage for June? Does anyone know?
It's like 99.
It's like 99.8%. What that means is sellers are pretty much getting what they list their homes for, on average. So by setting that expectation, it'll help you eliminate those buyers saying, hey, I didn't get my offer accepted $30,000 below this price. Does that make sense? Also, I love going over repairs with buyers. I explain to them in the purchase agreement. What does the purchase agreement say about repairs?
They're not
as
is.
What was that, Clara?
The house is as is.
Sold as is. It's in bold. So many people don't know that. I laugh when I get a counter that says property sold as is. Really, they're setting the intention. Some of them don't even know. It's already in the counter. Property sold as is. Seller doesn't have to do any repairs. Does the seller have to even acknowledge a request for repairs?
No.
They don't. What kind of repairs are sellers more inclined to do?
Safety.
Typically.
Health.
Cosmetic.
Safety concerns?
So I got cosmetic. What was
Lender
that?
required. Safety concerns.
What was that, Garrett?
Lender required.
Lender required. I said safety concerns, that does fall into it, but I've seen some safety concerns that appraisers don't call out.
Yeah.
I've had some appraisers go out there and not call things out that they should have, whether they missed it, didn't know, I don't know, for whatever reason. But it's usually those lender required repairs that are typically being done. Why do those have more leverage?
Because those have to be
Because of the loan.
Because if they're not done, they can't close.
Yeah, no approval, no loan. No loan, no home. Pretty simple, right? So by having that conversation ahead of time, before you guys actually go into placing offers and enter escrow, does that set some kind of expectations? Mhm. How about determine cost of repairs? What's that look like? When can we do that? How do we do it?
You get estimates
What's that? Get estimates? When can you get estimates?
after.
As soon as.
After inspections?
during inspections.
During inspections? What else?
When you
The
sit down to
seller
go
could
over it.
find
Depend
out.
what it is too.
During pre-inspection? Seller could do it before even he gets the offers.
You can really do it at any time.
Yeah.
Jason, you just put one in escrow up in Mojave. Before the buyer even wrote the offer, what'd you guys do?
Go inspect it.
You inspected it, but did you reach out to a contractor?
Yeah.
Did the contractor go out there?
Yeah.
So before you're writing an offer, we actually have a vendors list where we can reach out to contractors. Sometimes they'll go visit it, sometimes they don't have to. Like, send me pictures and I'll let you know how much it's worth, or how much the repairs are. With buyers being uneducated, they might see paint and carpet and be like, man, that's like $15,000, $20,000 worth of repairs. And then you get a contractor, Contractor goes, no, I can do that in about, 5 to 8 grand. Think that saved the deal? Help you write a better offer? Set some better expectations? Probably, right? Okay, now we're in escrow. We're gonna talk about report complexity. How many of you guys attend your home inspections? I work with a lot of new agents. We all do. We all help our agents out. And the common question that I get asked is, JD, should I be at the home inspection or should I be at the appraisal? There's some agents that don't go. And I'm like, yes. I learned by trial and error. I've not gone to home inspections before and then get a call from the buyer immediately afterwards. Oh, I got to cancel. This inspector just told me this, this, and this, and I get the report and I'm like, what are you guys talking about? I don't see any big concerns here. And it turns out because someone wasn't there to kind of mediate the responses from the home inspector, the buyer just went off of what the inspector said. Sometimes you need to see it from another lens. What's up, Nico?
I tell my buyers to stay home during the home inspection.
Stay home during the home inspection?
I don't allow most of the time, unless it's like they're adamant about it, most of the time I don't even allow them to come to the home inspection. And I was like, I promise you, my inspector's gonna do his job, he's gonna do a thorough report, and you and I will get a chance to actually go over it together.
Yeah.
And all the things that he found. It's just, I don't want him to miss something when you're asking him a question or anything like that.
So what Nico's talking about is interpreting the home inspection for buyers. So he doesn't have his buyers go to the home inspection. We all run our own business. You can do it whichever way you'd like. Me personally, I encourage them to go.
Okay.
The reason being is when they get the report, we're both going over it together, and I'm not an inspector. Sometimes there's things in there that I cannot explain. So what I do is I make it fun. So I'm like, hey, look, the inspector's gonna run through the house. It's gonna take about 45 minutes to an hour and a half. During that time, we're gonna go measure stuff. I bring a tape measure with me. I have it in my truck all the time. Let's go start measuring windows. Let's measure for the stove and the refrigerator. Let's go check the sprinklers. Let's go do our own investigation. I gotta do an AVID anyways. And I keep them away from the inspector. And what I do is I say, hey, look, at the end, the inspector's gonna come back and we're gonna walk through everything and go through it together. And what'll happen is, most of the time the inspectors that we use, we know how they work, so we don't really have to step in. But sometimes buyers get their own inspectors, whatever it is, and there needs to be further communication or further clarification. I have had one point where an inspector says, hey, here's a problem here, and they go and explain it to the buyer, and the inspector moves on to the next thing, and I'm looking at my buyer, and I can just see on their face, they're like, I have no idea what he just said. And I have to say, hey, look, do you have a question? Do you understand that? And then I'll act as the buyer and I'll ask questions. Okay, so let's say I do fix that myself. How much does that usually cost? Or where could I go? And the inspector's like, oh, no big deal. It's a GFCI outlet. You just go to Home Depot, 20 bucks, 10 bucks. Maybe hire an electrician, or if you want to try it your own, you try it yourself, you can do it yourself. I wouldn't. So you want to interpret that home inspection for buyers. Next stage, doubt about worthiness. Prepare and reassure buyer to avoid buyer's remorse. I think this is big. I think this is happening a lot in today's market. Is there a lot of reasons for buyers to second guess their choices?
Yeah.
Yes. What are some of the things you guys are hearing?
You seen another house they like while they're in escrow?
Seeing another house they like? What else?
The news.
The news? Interest rates?
They thought they could have gotten a better deal.
Thought they could have gotten a better deal? I had someone one time, the appraisal came in, and it came in over value. And they were like, I really hope that came in below market value. And they were trying to cancel. Yeah. I'm like, you should have never wrote the offer at that price. So, we want to prepare and reassure buyers to avoid buyer remorse. So how do we do that? How do we prepare for them? How do we reaffirm?
We gotta talk and talk a lot to them, giving them a lot of information.
Lead and motivate them.
Lead, and motivate. What did I say? What was that word with the M?
Motivate.
Meditate.
What's he saying?
Like meditate.
Is he saying motivate or motivate?
Motivate.
There's a difference. So a lot of people think we have to motivate. Motivation? You can't motivate people, but you can motivate. Meaning you can help provide information to help them make their decision. Okay? An example, scenario. Just got a buyer into escrow, and we're sitting down going over a counter, and the buyer has fallen in love with a few different houses, lost them because of multiple offers. And so she looks me in the eye before we get started and she says, JD, if I don't get this one, I am done.
Right.
I am done looking for houses. And I was like, that's interesting. Tell me more about that. How'd you get to that point? Help me understand what you're thinking. And so I knew it was an emotional response, so I had to just let them vent. So she vented, and she said, look, I love this house, and I don't know if I can go through it again. And long story short, I had a reminder. I said, well, first off, let's take a minute to step back and look at the grand scheme of things. Sometimes I just gotta be grateful for what I have. So what you're telling me is, man, I am super disappointed because I keep missing out on offers on a second home that I'm gonna buy that's an investment property for my family, is gonna change my family's future. What a crappy problem. And she thought about it. She said, yeah, you're right. And I said, would you agree that all good things don't come easy? Most of the time you gotta work hard for them, right? So as we go through this conversation, at the end she said, I gotta apologize. First, I didn't think about you and how much work you and the Leonard have been putting into this. And then after thinking about it, I realized it's totally worth it. Totally worth it. So you can't motivate, but you can motivate. Sometimes you just need a person to hear. There's also some other ways to do it. We always say, look, when you find a house, these buyers, they usually have a motivation why they want to buy a home. And we say, always remember what their top 3 reasons are. And you have to remind them of that. Negotiating repairs. Recommend short timetables. What's that look like?
For contingencies?
Lower your contingencies. What else? What if you get your inspections and everything done before your contingency period? Should you have them remove it?
Yeah.
If they're ready. I remember one time, I had an agent, great agent too, top producer in this office. Had a 17-day contingency period. He gives me the home inspection removal, the inspection contingency removal, and something else other than the appraisal and loan on like day 7. And I was like, hey man, I don't need this right now. You have a few more days. And he says, buyer's not concerned, why would I wait? Might as well lock them in now. They said they're comfortable, they're not asking for repairs, they're okay, they're not gonna do any more investigations, there's nothing left to do. So let's go ahead and have them remove those contingencies now. I used to say, hey look, if the agent doesn't ask for those contingencies removed, we're not gonna remove them. Came back to bite me in the butt one day. 30-day escrow. And then it was a 30-day escrow on like day 25, right before we're about to sign loan docs, buyer gets cold feet and decides to cancel escrow. And it's super easy for them because they still have their contingencies in place. Put repair limits and allowances in contracts. Have you guys done that yet? Or have you seen that? I see it all the time.
Yeah.
John, what have you seen?
Like a limit, like seller to put 1,500 max towards
50, there you go.
repairs or something like that.
Yeah.
It's written in the contract, so you can't.
Yep. What's another one that we see? I see one very common with termites, termite inspections.
Clear section 1?
Clear section 1, have you guys seen that before?
Yeah.
Someone's asked for a termite report in a clear section 1.
Yeah.
I think that really favors the buyer, and that's great. As a listing agent on my side, when I talk to my clients, I give them 3 options, and that one I think is the one with the most risk for the seller. Benefits the buyer. Any section 1 items, seller automatically has to fix them if they agree to that. Doesn't matter if it's $100 or $10,000. Seller has to pay for it if they agree to that. Not bad for the buyer. Selling it might be a challenge. So how do we negotiate that? So I'm like, hey, you have a few things. You can pay for a termite, property sold as is, already says in the contract, we'll negotiate later. Or we can make it a win-win and we discuss a limit, an allowance, $500,000. Seller pay for section 1 items up to $500, up to $1,000. Does that make sense? Instead of asking for repairs or limits, what are some other things that you can do?
Credits.
By credit?
Credits. I'm a big fan of credits. I like credits. They're super fast, simple, and easy. Buyer doesn't have to go on and confirm the credits are done in a workmanlike manner. You don't have to wait for the repairs to be done.
Trade for the Peloton.
Trade for the Peloton.
That almost happened in one of my last transactions.
Real estate is complex. Okay, we're gonna move on to appraisals. Any other questions on inspections and repairs? Okay. Appraisals. won't support the price. Have you guys had that before?
Yes.
Yes.
Plenty of times. Right now, we're not in a market where that happens too often. It does still happen. It was happening in the market, about a year or two ago, when everyone was overbidding. You guys remember that? So what are some solutions that we can do to make sure the property comes in at value? Number one is provide the appraiser with research. How many of you guys go and meet the appraiser? If you don't, you should, right? The only thing you can't do is influence the appraiser, but you can definitely be there to answer questions. I've had some appraisers that, what's up,
I
Gary?
was just saying, you definitely can influence them by being kind, nice, supportive,
By
helpful.
bringing them Starbucks.
Yeah.
I had an appraiser who showed up with a Kings sticker, and I was like, oh yeah, he's a Kings fan. And the buying agent was Christy Limpus, and she's like, there's no way we're gonna get this appraisal in. And I held the tape for him, we became friends, we talked hockey the whole time.
There you go.
Appraisal in at value. But you're not really supposed to do that,
Yeah.
but you never know, being
Garrett's over
friendly,
here like,
kind.
let me hold that tape measure. Don't look at that stain. Let me hold the tape measure.
I'm just saying, being kind and being someone genuine and helpful,
Yeah.
they are humans.
They are. They can be super helpful, guys. Communication, which we'll learn here in just a second, goes a long ways with all the parties. Providing the appraiser with research. What kind of information are you guys giving the appraiser?
Cops.
Comps? Where do you get your comps? GAVAR?
SRAR.
SRAR?
RPR. Title.
RPR? And title. Why title?
Because
Because we have the
auctions,
latest information.
I had an appraisal come in almost 100,000 below value because same model went to auction and she used it as a comp and I had no idea it was there.
Yep.
And it hurt my heart and I wanted to kill him. I got it fixed, but
Yeah. Not all sales are put onto the MLS, but title does have record of all the sales, including for sale by owners and auctions. So check your MLSs, check title, and then prepare a backup plan. What are some backup plans that we can put in place if an appraisal doesn't come in? Answers next to the prepare a backup plan.
Appeal the appraisal.
Appeal the appraisal, find additional buyer funds. What about asking the seller to reduce the price? I like to say it's just plain old renegotiations. Yes.
if you're on the seller side, I think it's incredibly important to prepare your sellers that an appraisal could come in low. And when it does, they are almost like, okay, we talked about this
Yep.
is what happened.
Yep.
Now, how do we move forward, or like we already talked about? Because when it happens, when they expect to get the money,
Yeah.
it's a lot harder for them to do it. But if they expect that, hey, just because it's this, it does mean nothing. So if the appraisal comes in, there's a good chance it'll be a lower value. And how do you guys feel? If it's 20,000 below value, are we good to move forward?
Yeah.
And a lot of times they'll be like, yeah, and then when it happens, say, if you could even split it, they love you. And now they're just mad they lost 10,000 even if they had to split it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot easier when you have those expectations set up front and you give them time to think about it. Because when the appraiser comes in and you let them know, they are gonna react rather than respond. Appraisal comes in low and you gotta call them. Hey, I got some, JD, how you doing? Doing good, but I don't know how we're gonna feel after this phone call. Appraisal came in $20,000 less. Do you think they immediately respond to that?
Yeah.
They might not do it verbally. Inside though, I mean, who wouldn't be upset about losing money? If you wouldn't be, let me talk to you afterwards. Give me some money, I'll take it. Right? I think we all would be. So by having the conversation beforehand, so when you get offers in, you guys look at it and you guys run CMAs, property value reports, just to make sure that it's within reason. You provide that information to your client. Sometimes it's not, and you can at least prepare them for it, so when it does happen, you eliminate that emotional response. And now, or that you eliminate the emotional reaction. And now they have time to actually respond back. They've had time to think about it, and now they can respond back. Does that make sense?
Sorry, I keep jumping in.
Go ahead,
Also,
please.
even when you're setting expectations, if you're the listing agent and a buyer's agent brings in an offer, if it's 20, 30,000 above what you listed at, you have a good idea that is not going to come in.
Mhm.
So having the expectation call with the buyer's agent, well, what happens when this appraisal doesn't come in? that, you know, my comps are showing it at 450, 470 is great, but are they willing to, and having that expectation that maybe, oh yeah, the buyer's got extra cash, they're willing to come in,
Yeah.
great, let's get that on the counter.
Yeah.
There is some things you could do to prepare, because appraisals were one of the number one reasons why deals fell apart, because I think expectations not set in the beginning.
Yeah, yeah, when I get when I get offers above list price, one of the first things that I ask the agents is, how did you get to that price? And that's where some of the stuff Garrett mentioned comes out. Oh, the buyer has additional funds, so they're okay with paying the difference, or some of it, or being open to renegotiating. Or sometimes they'll send me comparables that I missed, for whatever reason. So it's always good to communicate. Any questions on the appraisal part? Okay,
I have a question.
okay.
So the appraisal has to, like, what about if there's changes on the lending part and you have an appraisal for a previous lending deal and then you have to look for another lending program kind of thing for dogs? So we get another appraisal, we'll stick, I mean, those appraisal applies to any sort of program documentation, and then we might have to amend.
Okay, so there was a lot in there. Let me try to unpackage that for a second. So I think what I heard you saying was, what happens when you get an appraisal and then you have to change finances? Do you have to have a new appraisal done?
Right, yes.
Or could you use the old one? That's a good question. Now I'd recommend you discuss that with the current lender at that current time. Typically though, what happens is FHAs can be transferred. VAs, I believe, can be transferred. You have to confirm with lenders. And then conventional, you can have another one done. Someone just has to pay for it. FHA, VA, they'll stick with, no, just FHA. We'll stick with the property. I'm not sure about VA. Garrett, do you know?
A VA, I believe you can redo as well. FHA will stick with the property for at least 90 days sometimes.
Right, that's why it can be transferred. So if it's FHA, you gotta switch lenders. One lender has to transfer the case number, and then that appraisal will transfer over. If it's VA or conventional, you can just repay for another one. Okay? All right, loan approval and funding. Documentation problems. Seller gets pre-inspection. I don't think that's, that might help you with finding out what kind of lender required repairs might be coming up. Counseling the buyer and determining cost of repairs. We already talked about counseling the buyer. That's during your buyer consultations. We already talked about determining cost of repairs. This is going to be more specific towards lender required repairs. Do we all know what lender required repairs are?
Yes.
Repairs are called out by the appraiser. If they do not get done, the appraisal is not complete. You cannot move forward with finances. The bank will not finance it. So we do have conversations around what appraisers typically, I use the word typically a lot, typically call out. I tell them, hey, it's usually like safety hazards, broken windows, peeling paint. I actually asked an appraiser one time, and this is kind of the best way I've heard it described. He says, pretend you have a toddler or a 5-year-old running around. Anything that they can get hurt on, they're gonna call out. Buyer credit issues. The slide isn't what you write. Attend home inspection, interpret home inspection for buyers. When it comes to repairs, we talked about this, you can actually ask for closing cost credits in lieu of repairs. Do you guys know that? And the request for repairs, there's like 3 options. You can ask for money, you can ask for repairs, or you can ask for credits, or you can ask for a combination of all of them. I'm a big fan of doing closing cost credits. Again, once you write it in paper, you're done. You ain't gotta worry about it. Once you sign off, you ain't gotta worry about it. But when you ask for repairs, the buyer has to go and confirm that those repairs are done in a workmanlike manner, and it takes time. One time, it wasn't my deal. I had an agent who asked, you guys, you know the stand-up showers? They have, you know, those glass walls that go around it, right? Well, the shower didn't have that. So the agent put in there, seller to put up walls around the shower. You know what kind of walls they put up?
Plywood, plastic.
They took PVC pipe, created a frame, and then put a shower curtain around it. Even bigger problem. the buyer had already given their notice to move out of the house because they were getting ready to close. All they were gonna do is go confirm repairs.
Oh,
And so it took another week to close because they had to go and fix those repairs. I like credits more than repairs. Lender failure to approve. Prepare and reassure buyer to avoid buyer's remorse. Have you guys had a transaction or loan denied before?
Yes.
I have, due to financing. I've even had issues where title won't cover they won't issue title insurance. So what happens is, this is where us agents become resourceful. We can always reach out to other vendors and resources that we have. I have a group of vendors that I work with, lenders that I work with, and they all know this. If they can't get it done, I'm going to the next person in line. I have a fiduciary duty to my client to make sure that I'm providing all the information that I know to help them in their best interest. And I have that conversation with my lenders, yes.
I think it's, like Jenny said, it's really important. Just because one lender can't do it, it does not mean another one can't. The deal does not have to die. I would recommend talking to Hadia right away if your lender can't perform, because some lenders are just lenders and they have rules within where they work, and some are brokers and they can do way more or find another bank to take the loan. So just don't give up.
Yep. Ask questions. Sometimes I don't even know the answer. Sometimes I'm like, man, that's a hard one. But I'll still go ask, and you'll be surprised. Just recently had it. There was a land deal. Title company said, nope, you can't do it. And so I was like, well, go call 5 escrow companies and see what they say. Escrow and title companies. A few calls later, found someone that can do it.
Sounds familiar.
What's that?
So it sounds familiar.
Me and John worked on that one, so it sounds familiar to John. Put repair limits and allowances in contract. We kind of discussed all this, but this is more towards affecting the loan and approval and funding. I have had sellers counter. We didn't even ask for it. Sellers countered back. Seller will only do up to $500 for lender required repairs. And my client was like, oh, only $500? $500 isn't much, is it, guys? Is it more than what the contract says?
yeah.
Are you winning?
Yes.
Can you still ask for more?
No.
Yeah, absolutely you can. I'm like, hey, look, they might think they're doing something that's benefiting them, but I see this as benefiting you. Contract says it's sold as is. You don't get $500. So they're giving you $500. You can still ask for more. Okay, loan approvals and funding. Buyers, backup funding with parallel applications. What's that called?
Backup pre-qual.
Backup pre-qual, backup pre-approval. How many guys are having your buyers backup pre-qualified or backup pre-approved? Or if you're a listing agent, recommending the seller they have a backup pre-approval or pre-qualification done? You should. If a buyer comes in, says, hey JD, I got great credit, I got money, and Bank of America pre-approves me, could you guys recommend a second opinion just in case?
Yes.
I can't remember which agent I was working with. We had this happen a couple times. We had a pre-approval letter, and the lender, it wasn't one of our lenders, the lender told the buyer, hey, your credit's gonna be good in a couple weeks, so I'm just gonna issue the pre-approval letter, okay? Yeah, and so we go to writing offers, and I'm looking at everything, and I'm like, this just isn't making sense. So we find out they weren't really pre-approved. The lender issued a pre-approval, and their credit wasn't there, they were just assuming.
Yep, been there.
We didn't find that out until we got to writing the offer, and guess what happened by that time?
Didn't do it.
Think the buyer was excited? Think they're upset once they found out they weren't approved?
Yep.
You think they bought?
No.
Nope. By having a backup pre-qualification, you can confirm everything up front. You might even be able to provide a better solution or a better program. Also, we like to keep our lenders happy, so it benefits them too. Keep credit in good standings with the don'ts of mortgage funding. In the shift book on page somewhere here. Do's and don'ts. I'm sure Hadia has one. Almost every lender has one. Do's and don'ts of mortgage funding, page 253. They have some up here. But here's the 7 that I got. Don't change your employment status. Don't make any purchases, major purchases. Don't increase your credit, debt, or miss any payments. Don't change bank accounts or make undisclosed large deposits. Don't apply for credit cards, co-sign, don't spend money, and don't delay in providing all the paperwork. That's all information that we should be providing to the clients up front. We do that during our buyer consultations. When it comes to the sellers, getting them back up pre-qualified, make sure it's a pre-approval and not a pre-qual. Who knows the difference? What is the difference, Ceci?
Prequel,
Pre-qual is when they actually, well, no, pre-approval is when they actually go into your credit, employment, pay stubs, work history.
Yep.
Even do you.
There you go, good job. Yes, so pre-approval is I have verified everything. Pre-qual is word of mouth, right? So pre-qual is Veronica is gonna apply for a loan. I say, hey Veronica, fill out this application. And then Veronica goes, yep, I have $1 million in the bank, I own 5 businesses, and this is how much I report on my taxes. And I say, okay, looks good to me, here's a pre-qual. Pre-approval is, okay, well I need all of your business licenses, I need all your taxes, I need to see your bank statements, that $1 million account, I need to see it. So the pre-approval is I have verified everything. Never accept a pre-qual. Read those letters. A lot of agents, they see it's from a lender and they're like, okay, good, here you go, and they throw it in there. I make sure that it says pre-approval, not pre-qualification. Avoid unattractive loan terms. I think that's kind of changing in today's market, but just depending on the circumstances, you want to look at the finance options. Not all loans are favorable as far as how easy it is to close. You know, FHA, we have a lot of experience with those. But have you guys heard of non-QM loans, non-qualified mortgages? Right, they're a little different animal. And so usually with those non-QM loans, it's because the buyer can't get traditional financing. Debt to income ratio is too high, doesn't have a social security number, credit's not good, they have a BK. So those are all red flags for traditional financing. Do you think that should be a red flag for your sellers? Now it's not a no, it's just we need to present it to the seller so they're well aware, hey, this comes with some extra bells and whistles, right? There's some extra things that come along with this loan. Does that make sense? Require an earnest money deposit. I think that's obvious, right guys? Other contingencies, sell of buyers' homes. That's common right now, right? Someone wants to buy a house and it's contingent upon them selling a house. Is that right? How many of you guys have actually read the COP form, the COP form?
I think so.
Did you know that in there it states that you can accept backup offers? Do you guys know that? What happens, let's say I'm in escrow, you know, my client's in escrow, and the buyer, we're in escrow, and the buyer is trying to sell their house in order to close escrow, right? And so we're waiting for them to get their home in escrow. But in the meantime, I'm still marketing it, says it in there that I can do that, and then another offer comes in. Jason submits an offer $10,000 higher than what my current offer is at. Is there a scenario where I can move forward with that offer?
Yes.
Absolutely. You can actually request that the buyer immediately remove that contingency, or you give them a certain time to remove that contingency. The buyer can still remain in contract, they just have to remove that contingency. And if they don't, then the seller can move forward with canceling and going with the new offer. Does it help to have that information? How many of you guys just learned that? I think most of us in here just learned that.
Okay.
Limit time for contingencies to be removed if backup offer is received. I think in general, always try to keep your contingencies as short as possible, whether you're on the sell side or buy side. Make sense? Yes. Additional approvals, know who they are and their contact information, know timetables, and use open communication. Co-op agent. There's a part 2 to these transactions, right? It's not just you as the agent. Is there other people involved? Absolutely. Bad advice or communication. Have you ever had an agent that just isn't providing the right kind of information?
Yeah.
Right? We just dealt with someone, they submitted an offer, and they gave us a credit report, but the credit report only had 1 credit out of 3. And the other two, it said not enough credit history. So we just simply asked, hey, can you guys provide us a full credit report? And the agent was like, oh, man, no. You know, my buyer doesn't want it anymore because they thought it was gonna be super easy. And so in my head, I'm like, is this agent really educating their client on their options over a credit report, you know? I think if we're able to communicate effectively, we should be able to get the buyer to move forward with at least running a full credit report. That's fair. So you gotta make sure you clarify the message. So in that scenario, you really wanna specify like, hey, this is why we're looking to do this. Help me understand why you don't wanna do it. And then you just pass that information on. Inattention to detail, own the process. Know this, you are the leader of the ship. You are the captain of the ship. If anything goes wrong, you have a role to play in it. There are no victims in here. You have responsibility. TC didn't send out the paperwork on time, guess what? That's your TC, right? Increase your frequency of communication. You'd be so surprised on how much a text message or a phone call of how are you doing helps out. In times like this, when you're not talking to them, someone is. It's the media, it's the aunts, it's the uncles, it's the friend that just bought a month ago. They're in their ear. So you just make sure that you're communicating with them too. Schedule initial meetings to determine strengths and where you have to pick up the slack. So this is discussing with all your parties who's involved. I work with Escrow all the time. Hey, how can I help out? Do I need to pick up the escrow package? Hey, the buyer's not signing the escrow package. Can you help us out? Absolutely. Vendor selection. Provide a selection list. How many of you guys have a vendors list? Garrett, does the office have one?
We do.
Oh, interesting.
How do we get that?
Yeah.
We just have one though?
Yep.
Mhm.
I would encourage you though to do the vendor call.
Yep.
And make your own list.
Build your own. Yes. Build your own vendor list. We have two. We have an all-star group vendor list and we have the office vendor list. We actually merge them both together, but I still look at the office one because they add new ones and then we add our own too. Juan's currently in the process of adding new vendors to our list currently.
Every agent asks me, what do I call to ask my clients? I have no idea what to say. Well, the first thing you can do is call and say, hey, I'm a fresh realtor and I need great vendors. Who have you had at your house lately that you give a 5-star review to? And they go, oh, we had a pool guy. Awesome. Do you mind if I call them? And then you call the pool guy. Hey, I'm looking for vendors. Would you be my pool guy? And I have a pool guy. And call someone else on your list that you're scared to call.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's a great reason to call people.
Everyone loves to have a guy or a person. Oh, my car's having a problem. I got you. I got a guy. Everyone likes that, right? So that's what you want to put them in a position in. It's like, hey, look, I know that you work with reputable people, and I trust your opinion. So who do you know that you can connect me with? Or you can just pull out the phone book and start with the A's. A for appliance, B for barber, C for car mechanic. Call one of them and say, hey, look, I'm looking to partner up. I want to bring you some business, and in return, I hope that you bring me business. Can I stop by today and pick up some of your business cards? So you can go meet them, drop off your business cards, and establish that relationship. And then provide backups. Our vendor list is always changing. When I send a handyman or a contractor to a client's house, what do you think I do afterwards? Follow up. Hey, how did my handyman do? I had to fire one time because he was rude. He was rude to my client. And it was enough to the point where I wasn't even going to give him a second chance. Haven't talked to him ever since. Came off the list right away. So make sure you have some backups. Deadlines, inspections and repairs, confirm appointments, and confirm progress. How many of you guys have a checklist? You all actually have a checklist. Do you guys know you have one in command? You guys know your opportunity stages?
Yeah.
There's checklists in there. On the All-Star Group, we have two. We have paper checklists, and we have our opportunity checklists. Currently, we're working to learn how to make those opportunity checklists a part of our business. It helps us confirm our progress. Build in flexibility, closing date. Mike Jackson helped explain this to me the most, where I understood it the most. He says, and it's kind of funny, but I liked it. He says, close of escrow dates are kind of like a pregnancy due date. Like you got a date, but it could be a little before, it could be a little bit after, right? So build in that flexibility and expectations. Occupancy, preset dates, limits, and penalties. So the contract defaults as, upon recording, we get possession of the property. Sometimes we negotiate more time for the sellers to stay in there, or sometimes we can negotiate for the buyer to move in early. Does that make sense? Use and manage a closing checklist. For those of you guys that don't have a checklist, good news for you is Mondo's gonna email everyone the checklist that we have. I think I got like 4 of them in there. They're all different. Some of them are, there's 2 of them in there that's buyer and seller. There's one general, very detailed outlined one, and then there's one that's like a checklist. So Mondo's gonna email that to you guys. I know we're going over on time, right, Garrett?
That's right.
I think we're almost done. We got a couple more things to go through, guys, and then we'll be done. So here's some questions that we can ask ourselves to get ready. Number 1, frame outcomes. What do we want to achieve? Let's pretend that we're working with the buyer. Who has a buyer right now? Can you give me some examples of what they're looking for?
My buyer is actually stuck on one specific home.
Awesome.
So she likes the French doors, she likes the location, she likes the landscape of the front yard, she loves the kitchen, new appliances. She loves that the bedrooms are all in the same hallway and they're very close to each other.
Okay, cool. So there's like 5 or 7 things there that she's looking for that are very specific.
Yeah.
Now, if you were to say there was a top 3 things that are deal breakers, let's say it has the other stuff, but not these 3 things.
I'm gonna think the size of the backyard because she does have 2 little ones.
Okay.
And then the closeness of the bedrooms so she can be at reach and attentive to them.
Ooh, that's a big
And
one.
then the size of the kitchen.
Size of the kitchen.
Yeah.
And what's important about having a big kitchen?
Yeah, she likes to host.
She likes to host.
Yeah, she has a
Hostess with the
husband.
mostess.
He's a firefighter, so she likes to cook him.
Okay, cool. So would you say that what she wants to achieve is to find a bigger yard for her family?
Yeah.
She wants to make sure that the rooms are close to her kids so she can keep a good eye on them and have some sense of safety and comfort. And she wants to be the hostess with the mostess?
Right.
Would you say that's our goal that we want to achieve?
Yes.
Now, when you're having your showings, do you remind her of that?
Yeah, I point them out. Like,
Yeah.
oh, this kitchen is amazing. Look at the size, just what you're looking for. Especially with the kids, more relatable because I'm a mom too. So then that's a giving point for both of us. I
Yeah.
think we can connect on that.
Now, let's say it has all of that, but it just doesn't have the French doors. Is that something we can work with?
Yes.
Right, so what do we realistically need to consider? Big backyard, gotta have the rooms close, and it's gotta have a good kitchen. French doors, we can work out. Guess what? I might even be able to get a deal where we get you closing cost credit to help pay for those doors. Wouldn't that be great? Right?
Yeah.
What will we do if? Prepare alternatives. Right, what are some alternatives? We talked about them with sellers. What are we gonna do if the property doesn't appraise? Right, what are we gonna do if the home sits on the market? What are we gonna do if we get negative feedback? Provide reassurance. We are on track, ahead of the game, and doing fine. Have you guys ever had a challenge in escrow? You guys ever had a problem? Problems come? Les Brown says the best. He's like, when problems come, don't go with them. Last thing you want is your agent to be like, oh my God, the escrow's falling apart, what are we gonna do? Yeah, no, you can do that on the inside, but you need to have a straight face and say, hey, look, I got this. We're gonna get through this. I'm on top of this. This is what I'm doing. As the All-Stars, what we do is every Tuesday, we connect with our virtual assistant, and any buyers that we have in escrow or any listings that we have, we provide the updates to our virtual assistant, and she creates this nice report. How many days it's been on the market, any feedback that we have from the viewings, any open houses that are scheduled, any inquiries that we did receive, any major events that are coming up, and then any kind of notes. And then for the buyer side, it has a picture of the house, it has some statistics on the side, and then just a blank area for any kind of notes. You'd be so surprised on how much having an expectation for the client that every Tuesday I'm gonna get this report eliminates phone calls and concerns. Of course, on top of that, we still over-communicate with them, and we still check in with them. But we have one foundation piece in place where every Tuesday, those reports go out. So we're on track, ahead of the game and doing fine. Provide reassurance, don't freak out. Early responses, communicate often. What's happening and how are you doing? How are you doing? It's such a simple question to ask. When I ask that question, I'm not coming from a strategy or tactical standpoint. I'm coming from the heart. I'm literally wanting to know, how are you doing? Expectations. Has it been done? What will you do now? I think this is very important when it comes to buyers or sellers. Buyers, when it comes to getting documentations over to the lenders as soon as possible. Sellers, how many of you guys had a seller like, okay, I'm getting the home ready, then they keep delaying the time it goes on to escrow. Sign a 6-month listing agreement, 2 months later, they're still painting the house. Do you think you need to have conversations around, hey, when's it gonna get done? What's been done? Solve problems. What do we need to do now and how can this get done? And then track progress. What is happening? What is next? You know, the buyer that told you that had an emotional response, I had to remind her how far we came. When we first started, she didn't think it was possible. And then we got into the pre-approval process, and that was all over the place. She's self-employed. So the lender at first was like, yeah, everything looks good. Just, you know, get this done, and we can move forward. Get it done. And the lender's like, well, you know what? That triggered this, and this, and this. And it took about a month to get everything in order. And so before you know it, we were looking at houses, and I had a reminder. I'm like, don't forget, when we first started, you didn't even think this was a possibility, and look at you now. You're getting your house. The procedures you put in place will serve you in every market. They are always the right thing to do. And that is it. Thank you guys for your time. We're a little over. But if you have any questions, come see me afterwards. I'll keep an eye on the chat. I'll be here for about 5-10 minutes. Garrett, anything else?
No, thank you.
Okay, guys, thanks.
Good class, JD.
Welcome.
Thanks, JD.
You're welcome. I know. I know. Crystal, no, because she's working at the front desk. And then, yeah, I got it. Give me a couple minutes here.
Okay.
Any questions? Any questions? You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome.
Bye.
Quick question, JD.
Yep.
On the pre-inspection
Mm-hmm.
by the seller,
Mm-hmm.
do you provide those to the buyer? Or
You
you're
can.
just doing
You
it
should.
for yourself as a seller?
Is that, Roland, give me just a second, Roland. I got a question in here, and then I'll come to you, okay?
Okay, thanks.
Yes, so don't forget, anything that you find out as the agent, you have to disclose.
Okay,
Does that make sense?
yeah.
Okay, Roland, what was your question?
Where can I get that list that you were talking about, the
checklist?
Yeah,
We're gonna email it to you.
okay.
Did you?
You got my email, so,
Yep, I'll double check. I think, Mondo took all the emails down earlier, but I will double check and make sure that he does get that checklist to you, Roland.
I appreciate that, thank you.
You're welcome.
That was great, I learned a lot, thanks.
Oh, good, yeah, thank you for the feedback.
Thank you.
Mhm.
I'll be here.
Oh, under, yeah.
He's gonna hear us. How do you think he takes this?
Oh, taking my phone off airplane mode. No, nothing's gonna happen. Uh-oh.